Hey, it's Del Jackson. We're LOHoops.com Zoom. We got Andy at the seashore. We got Coach Matt Johns in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We got Del in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So if you hear some birds chirping and it gets back and forth between me and Coach Johns, you'll know that Andy's on the screen. I hope he's getting tested when he comes home. That's what I'm hoping. So we'll start with Coach Johns. Hey, you've been one of our favorites as far as access to the gym, access to interviews, win or lose. It's very cool, and Andy and I really appreciate that, and I'm sure the LL does. So let's start with this. Just give us a brief background of your coaching career.
Absolutely. I started coaching in 1997 with Kyle DeGregorio at Mannheim Central. He hired me as an eighth grade coach. It's quite a start because he had been an assistant at Millersville. His ninth grade coach had been a grad assistant coach at Millersville. So I was working with some very experienced guys as somebody who was straight out of college. I still remember our first coaches meeting. We spent 3 hours talking about how we were going to teach shell. And if anybody met Kyle back in the day, that doesn't sound surprising to them. Worked with Kyle for a year. Kyle moved on to Ephrata. For me, that drive was too far from where I was living. Kyle introduced me to Jim Kreider. I told this story to somebody else a long time ago. Back then, networking didn't happen on Twitter. It happened in Hempfield Summer League gym. So if you were a young coach and you were looking for a job, Kyle walked me around, introduced me to some guys I didn't know, introduced me to Jim Kreider, who happened to be an eighth grade coach, interviewed and got that job, and just kept working my way up the ladder at Mannheim Township. Went to Donegal, Mannheim Township for 13 years. Had 1 year of assisting at Donegal. And the magical run that they had to the state semifinals in AAA. And Columbia position opened up. Moved to Columbia for 2 years, coached there. I'll tell anybody, really, the township job, since I live in township, I've been teaching in township for over 20 years. It was really the only job that I was going to leave Columbia for. I loved Columbia. I loved the people. I loved the students. I loved the coaches I worked with. Loved that town. But I was happy to come back here and be able to live, work, and coach in the same place. And it's been here now 5 years as the head coach. This is the start of our 6th season.
Nice. I was looking up Coach DeGregorio for something or other the other day. Somebody was looking for, actually it was our friends from Channel 11. They were looking for doing the top 20 kids or something like that.
Okay.
I knew that he coached one of the kids. I tried to get a hold of him, but I saw his career was just about over and he retired this year. So I don't. He
coached not very often, but I follow him out in Pittsburgh. Yeah, he's the patron saint of lost causes. Yeah. He will take any job, not bad job, but it doesn't matter what the record is to him. He's gonna take that head job and he's gonna do something with it. This past year, they upset Central Dauphin in the state tournament.
Yeah.
He was coaching girls.
The dude loves his sport. That's for sure. No doubt. Hey, since we got all the birds and the kids talking, I'm going to turn over to Andy and let him talk because he's on the screen half of the time anyway. All right, Andy, it's all yours.
I'll figure out how to mute myself. I'm trying to do that in the background while y'all are talking. But, hey, Coach, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on specifically is a couple weeks ago I was scrolling through Twitter like I always do, and I saw Coach Perez from Reading kind of asked a rhetorical question out loud, out loud. And it basically went something like, if we're supposed to follow prerequisites A, B, and C, how can we do activities X, Y, and Z? And I saw you chimed in, and I'm paraphrasing here, so if I'm speaking out of turn, please let me know. But is that essentially, I guess, it led you to say, yes, Coach, for all the reasons you just outlined, that's why we're going to keep everything in-house this summer and this fall. I guess, am I paraphrasing that correctly?
Absolutely. I mean, as soon as the state said, hey, put some guidelines out and said, hey, when you're in yellow, you can work out in groups of less than 25. If you go to green, if your county goes to green, it opens up the possibility for some competition. We saw summer leagues being offered. We saw camps being possibilities. And in my mind, this is something that our building, our Manheim Township High School, and I think our district has done pretty well. We've said, hey, we're going to take this slow, because everything that's been happening this spring and this summer has been changing so rapidly. We haven't been able to be in a gym for 3 months. Let's not pretend like we're going to go back to normal in July when Lancaster County goes green. So let's take this opportunity to focus on us. Let's get back with our kids. I think one of the things I said was, I want us to work out again. More importantly, I want us to start reestablishing that we are a we, because we haven't been able to do anything other than Zoom virtual calls for 3 months. I'm certainly not ready to just launch us into a summer league. And also, I don't want to bring things back to our community. We have multi-sport athletes. We have families. Let's focus on us and see how it goes. Because if something happens poorly with one of our teams, I feel like it could shut down the entire campus, the entire school. So let's not be the team to take that risk.
Andy's messing with his mute button, Coach.
There we go. I got it.
There
I
he's
figured it
on.
out.
Oh, you're
All
good,
right.
man. That was nice.
I'm wondering, Coach, is that a move that was that at all personnel driven, or like, I'm thinking back to the team you had a couple, 3 years ago where, you guys were a shoe-in to make playoffs, leagues and districts, and you basically knew what you have and your narrative was already written. It was just going to be a matter of how far do you guys want to take it. Was that the decision to keep everything in-house? Was the personnel you had a factor in that, or was that just, regardless of who you had, that was going to be your decision irregardless?
That was the decision that we made, regardless of who we had, what type of team we were looking at and going to be looking at. As the guidelines were coming out, and as we were working on those guidelines as an athletic staff and as an administrative staff at school, one of the first things I did was I texted our head girls coach, Sean Burkhart, and I said, hey, I don't think we should go anywhere. What are your thoughts? And he said, I'm in agreement. I said, good. Then we can be together on this, and and I'm going to let our athletic director and I'm going to let our principal know these things are happening. We're not even asking to go. We want to do what's safe for our kids right now. And I think we're a little blessed because our athletic director, who is coming to us from Texas, he had the opportunity to see Texas open up pretty quickly athletically, and then 3 weeks later they had to shut down. So I don't think anybody wants to see the rug pulled out from underneath our kids, only being a couple weeks into this. And our district was in a position where he had been working on our plan pretty long, because he had already had a complete one for Texas. He tweaked it, he worked on it, he put a lot of hours into it, but he had a good head start. And as you probably saw, we were able to get in. We were one of the first districts that were able to get in and get some work done. But we want to do it right. We don't want to just be first to get in. We want to have a good plan, work that plan, and keep our kids safe, but keep them together.
Tell me a little bit about how that is going with, again, the new administration is coming in from Texas, which obviously now is a whole different can of worms than PA is at this moment in time. I mean, how's that working out? Are you guys kind of the boots on the ground and letting him know, hey, this is our situation? Because, obviously with hindsight being 2020, this would have been the spring and summer of the status quo, but at Township, right, that's not the case. So how's that kind of working out with one guy being here and you guys being someplace else?
Yeah, there's a team of people at the school that have been working with him to help provide some eyes and some ears for him. He's been working closely in conjunction with our building principal, David Ralott, and with assistant principal John Luce. But then in some of the things that he doesn't have the experience with our facilities. So there were some cases where the head football coach Mark Evans and myself, we're FaceTiming him, walking around the campus, walking around the gym, showing, hey, this is what we can do here. This is how we need to adapt this facility for what we need to do. This is the spacing that we have from weight room station to weight room station. And these are kind of the changes we need to make, the modifications we need to fit within this plan. So, everything looks great on paper, but you got to apply it and adapt it to your facilities. So, we just been really all working together to make that happen. And to his credit, he has held weekly athletic department Zoom meetings since early in June, just keeping us aware of what's happening, keeping us aware of what he's working on. And so from a full athletic department perspective, I think that's been really good for all of us.
Hey, tell me a little bit about your staff now. I want to get into some actually
Okay.
fun questions
Yeah.
rather than doom and gloom.
Yeah, I've been talking COVID for 3 months. Can we talk basketball?
Let's do it. So you just mentioned in your intro that you were Butt's assistant over at Donegal.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are kind of the three musketeers of coaches. I mean, you have yourself, you have a state coach of the year who's your top assistant, which I'm sure is pretty rare, and then you have who, in my opinion, is the hottest commodity locally in terms of the next guy with Jace to get a coaching job. I mean, I know you don't do it alone, so I'll let you brag on your guys that are doing it, helping you out here.
Let's start with if you have a head coach and you interview a head coach who says that they don't have the best staff around, that person's probably not staying as a head coach for very long, right? Or their assistants are leaving them. But I really do believe that we have an amazing staff, top to bottom. And we've had the same staff, the same continuity for the 5 years that we've been together. And I just think in today's age, it's hard to do that. It takes the right people to do that. But it's also, you don't see people that have the ability and the time to be able to do it for that long together. So I'll start from like the bottom up. Our 7th grade coach is Todd Skolnick. He coached he went to Manheim Township. He's a grad, played a little bit at Millersville, coached at Manheim Township, coached at Manheim Central, and now is back at Manheim Township. And he now works in our high school. So it's awesome to get to see him almost on a daily basis. Our 8th grade coach is Zach Sheets. He's another Hempfield grad, played at Bloomsburg, played for Warren Goodling and played at Bloomsburg. So he's been with us for 5 years, been with Township for 6. And he does a great job with our 8th graders. Our 9th grade coach, a lot of people don't know about him. He was the head coach at Lancaster Country Day, TJ O'Gorman. He's also the golf coach at Lancaster Country Day and teaches middle school there. But I had 2 coaches on my staff who were head coaches that got to the state tournament before I ever became a head coach. And he does a phenomenal job of transitioning kids from junior high to high school because he knows what is necessary because he has done it himself. Jordan Stewart, he is more than ready to be a head coach. And I think, the only question for him is he is very successful outside of basketball. He's successful. He's a successful worker, successful businessman. He's successful with LA Elite. The only question is there an opportunity that fits into, he's able to fit into that package, because there are jobs that open up, but they're not always the right job. They're not always a job that you can go from your work to that job successfully, and so he's ready. It's just a matter of the right job for him. Also played for Warren Goodling, 2-time Lebanon Valley College Defensive Player of the Year. He's much better now than he was when he was playing in college. Maybe he might say he's not as explosive or not in the same shape, but he is able to go after our kids and really work our kids. And then, last but not least, Coach Ryan Butt. He was a state AAA Coach of the Year, LL Coach of the Year. One of the things that will infuriate me when I've heard people talk about him is they'll say he only won a section title at Donegal, which is, it just frustrates me to all get out. That team only won a section title, and you think, that team had 3 losses the entire season. It was to a league champ, which is McCaskey, a district champ, which was Berks Catholic, who had 2 Division I players, and then to the state champ, which was Imhotep. So you have a team with 3 losses, and those are their only 3 losses of the year. The McCaskey loss was close. The Berks Catholic loss was by 4, and then the Imhotep loss was by 2. I think we lost 3 games that season by a combined less than 10 points. That was an amazing, amazing team, and we still don't see too many. I don't know, when was the last time a team in the LL went undefeated regular season? So, they only did that too. But he's a phenomenal, phenomenal coach. And as much as I try to stay calm on the sidelines unsuccessfully, as you guys see, he's a nice balancing force for me. Helps keep me calm.
2 years ago, you win the league championship for the first time. And people were asking me last summer when I was out and about, hey, what's Section 1 looking like? Who do you like? And I was like, listen, I don't think that drop-off is going to be that big for Township. Now, the regular season didn't really kind of play out that way, obviously.
Yeah.
So I mean, what's your assessment on 1920 coming off of a historic year? I mean, were you
My
pleased or?
assessment, I wish we would have figured it out a little sooner. I think we won our last 5 games of the year. That included a regular season, double-digit win over Governor Mifflin. That was a district qualifier, very good team. It included overtime win over McCaskey, which was a league and a district qualifier, a very good team. And then it included a double-digit win over Cedar Crest, which was the league champ. So I think we ended up the team that I thought we were going to have. It just took us a long time to get there. I'll take responsibility for that. If we're not playing where we need to play during the season the way we need to, that's the staff's fault. That's not the kids' fault. And I wish I could figure out a way to be the team that starts 6-0, because I don't think in my 6 years of being a head coach, we've been that team. We're usually the team that just keeps coming on, gets stronger and stronger and stronger as the season ends. We did that, in our championship season. We did that last year. Both my Columbia teams were better by the end of the season than they were early on. And not just better in terms of play, consistently just winning games and taking out good teams in the second half. If you guys have some secret, I'd love to know what it is, because I feel like we're a January, February team, and I'd love to be a December, January, February team. I don't know what the secret is.
Oh, man.
He's all yours, boss man. Maybe you can give him some of those tidbits.
Oh my golly. Oh geez. I'll tell you what, that's funny, really. I mean, it's strange. I mean, you go back to Donegal, and it's like, I was there for 7 years, man. I sat the same place that Butt did, and to say he only had one section, I'm like, I would have crawled over some glass to get a section championship there. It's an interesting school. They had good administration, but it was really hard to get the kids to play a lot of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And to his credit, there were some kids in the pipeline. He developed them, and they had a style that was, at that time, he was kind of before his time, and he let them big guys pop some threes. And I think that's what kind of propelled you guys on that little state run that you guys had. So, all the more kudos to you and to him as that progressed. Hey, I saw you a lot last year, and it seemed to me when I saw you from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, I thought the biggest improvement was out of your guards. Do you disagree with that? Like, you had young guards early, and it looked like they weren't quite sure what to do. And at the end, I mean, you had guys popping 20 and popping threes and just kind of taking over games. So how did that development come along throughout the season? Because I know, watching you guys play with Coach Butt on the sideline, you've always had 6'5", 6'6" dudes, and you run that high-low, you pick across, and all of a sudden he gets the ball in the post, and you can tell the skills are there with the reverses and the hook shots and everything like that. But how did you develop the team with the guards this year?
Yeah, if I go back to the start, because this, we've had 5 seasons, we only had the same even type of team 2 years in a row. The league championship year, and then the year prior to that. That's pretty much the only 2 years out of these 5 where we really had the same type of team that was, skilled at multiple positions. And that team really, Tyler Vici-Domini was about 6'4", 6'5". He was more of like a dribble drive big man than a back to the basket big man. Although, he had some pretty good hook shots, and you're right, the reverses he loved. But that team was spread them out, attack off the bounce. We had some big guards and skilled forwards where we could take advantage of mismatches. Before that, you're right, we had 3 bigs. We had a 6'7", a 6'6", and a 6'4", and then we had 3 guards that could play, of which, honestly, one and a half of them could shoot that year. Mm-hmm. Tyler could shoot, and Brendan Malott was emerging as a shooter.
Right.
So, our bigs stretched us that year. Nick Vici-Domini could really shoot. So, we've grown to adapting to what our players are every year, knowing that it's not going to be the same, and it's far from the same. So this year we had 3 returning bigs, Zach Oldak, a 4-year varsity player, 3-year varsity starter who can play anywhere from 1 through 4. Mickey Stokes, who is about 6'4", just jump to the ceiling athlete, great wide receiver who's going to California for JUCO for football. Hopefully he is, given the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Ben Mann, tri-captain, Brackbill Award winner, also about 6'5", big and strong, an old school big man. So that was the core that we had coming back. One was a starter. The other 2 were kind of like our 7th, 8th/9th men. So we didn't have much experience coming back, and none of them were guards. So it definitely took our guards a while to adjust to handling the ball, getting it to those entry points that we need, shooting with confidence, understanding that, hey, we need you to stretch for our bigs, although our bigs this year could shoot. Zach and Mickey could shoot threes as well. It took Zach Hartz and Seth Miller a little while to get going. And then JT Weaver was somebody who was on the JV team for us. He's about a 5'10" guard who just continued to play and play better and play better. And he had been sitting varsity with us all year. He had been playing varsity with us most of the summer. We injected him in somewhere around early January. And that's one of those guys where, he could come in and he could drop 12 and a quarter. Mm-hmm. He had maybe 15 or 16 against McCaskey in the second half. Mm-hmm. He can shoot. He can, 1 to 2 dribble off the bounce if he throws you a shot fake. And so when we started getting all 3 of them clicking at the same time, and then Zach Oldak clicking at the same time, and then Mickey Stokes and Ben Mann were pulling down rebounds, all of a sudden we saw the team that we thought we were going to have. Mm-hmm. That confidence continued to build. And we were pretty explosive in terms of scoring and shooting as the season went on.
Yeah,
pretty explosive, and it was fun.
Yeah. Like I said, I saw your first game, and I saw you against Governor Mifflin too. I mean, yeah. I saw some in between. So it's kind of cool to see a development from my point of view as a writer and as an ex-coach to kind of see the progression. So that's cool. Let me ask you about your job. Because you're in a unique position.
Yeah.
I know Coach Long at Solanco, before he just took over the principal job, he was in the same position as you are, as your administration, and you're also the head basketball coach. Is there conflicts with that as far as timing and meetings and things like that?
Sometimes, and I'm the first to say I'm pseudo administration. I'm in the middle.
Right.
So I have zero adult responsibilities, which is kind of a weird thing to say sometimes, but I don't supervise any adults. I work with adults. I manage some, like on our security team and things like that. My sole responsibility is kind of the day-to-day operations of the school and student discipline. So I get them in, we help manage throughout the day, the things that come at us. I'm, active shooter trained. I'm also restorative practice trained and trained in leading circles and restorative groups. So from morning to end of the day, we get them in, we get them out, we move, and we try to keep them safe, and we try to help them learn how to get along. I would say from August to mid-November, I focus on that. I hit that hard. And I take as many things off the plate of our administrators as I can. From mid-November through hopefully March in a good season, they know that a couple times a week, I got to knock off at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. So it's either practice time, it's bus time. There are times when I need to pull away. And I think, over the years, we have a really good working relationship where they know if I can take something off their plate, if I can manage something big or small, I'm going to. They know that I have another responsibility for the school that's also an important responsibility, which is coaching our kids and, leading our kids off, outside of the classrooms and on the court. And they respect that, and they give me the opportunity to do that. I love it. I love the mix.
You're in a unique situation that a lot of schools, and I know, I can come back to me that I was a head coach. I also had principal certification.
Right.
I interviewed at a couple places, but it was like, you can't do both. I mean,
Right.
I heard that and I'm there like, well, this is kind of what I do. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I can't do that. So I think that's pretty cool. And I was just wondering about the push pull. So let me follow that up with, okay, what's going on with the schools as far as the safety stuff goes and how that changes. How do you deal with that? Because things are changing. I mean, they just changed this week. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
So now when I go to a meeting tomorrow, an all-day meeting, I'm wearing my mask at school the whole
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So how do you guys plan for that? How do you deal with meetings in-house that affects your kids down the road?
Yeah, we tell, I try to take what would I want for my own kids. I have a son going into his junior year, and I have a daughter who's going to be a freshman this year in high school. And one of the first things I'll think is, do I feel like that is safe for my own kid? Let's start there, and is this something I would want for them? The next thing I look at and say, are we moving too fast, or are we moving appropriately fast? And so that's why, even though Lancaster County has been green now for about a week and a half, we're still operating under yellow in terms of our athletic practices. And because the first week, really the only 3 sports teams that got started up were boys basketball, football, and then boys soccer. We added a lot more teams last week, and then we're expanding it now. So, after 1 week, that's a small sample size. Let's see how this whole, puzzle works. Once we get everybody moving, everybody coming in and out of the building, we're going to have 125 marching band students that are going to be on and off, in their small breakout groups as we're moving. Let's make sure it all works. Let's make sure that we don't really have any negative ramifications of this, and then we can take the next step. And we, each Friday we have an athletic department meeting. I'm sure that there are some decisions that are made at a level, higher than my pay grade before we go into those, and that's okay, because they're responsible for the building and the kids in the district too. Mm-hmm. But we talk about, hey, this is what we got to do to get to the next step.
I have one more coaching type question, and then I'll turn it back to Andy because he usually has something good to end up here. I've watched you guys for the last couple of years, and like you say, you kind of hit a skid point someplace in January, and then it's just like all of a sudden the motor turns on. So my coaching question to you is, how do you deal with those lows and those highs? I mean, that a couple of years ago, you were one or two baskets away from not being in the LLs and not winning that LL championship and not going to the districts. I mean, it was that close in everything. So I know you and I have talked about that. You said one game at a time. So maybe last year, let's go back to last year. How do you deal with the highs and the lows and during a year? I'm always curious on how coaches deal with that.
Honestly, I'd say, as much as I probably look like a nut job sometime on the sidelines, and I can't imagine. I have a band. It's sometimes well over 20,000 by the time a night's done, and I've probably 75% of that's me pacing up and down on the sidelines. But during the course of the season in a practice, we keep it pretty consistent. And if we focus really heavily, and again, nobody says I don't do basics, but we continue to just pound a series of basic things. And then as a staff really talk about, okay, what are the 2 or 3 things after that game we need to work on? What do we need to do? We're not, we don't need to do everything. What do we need to do to make us better for that next game? Because as you know, and you guys cover a lot of games, we might play, and there's at some point in the season, we're going to play 10 games in probably 15 days. Mm-hmm. And I really believe you got to get through those. You got to be the team you want to be when those are done, because you can't fix it with a bunch of practices during that period of time. But, and you can't win a season during that period of time, but you sure as heck can lose one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we want to slowly get better during that period of time and know who we are by the time we get done with that. Because now you're into that, you're back into your leagues, you're back into something a little bit more consistent, and you got about 6 games to go. And that's when you're starting to really decide your season at that point. Yeah. And that's that second time through, we might say, hey, we have a much more better opportunity to look at film from the teams we played the first time around. What did they do to us? I think our staff does a really nice job of saying, all right, they did this. We're going to take that away. What can we exploit? We're going to exploit that. And I think you'll see the second time around, we're much more successful consistently than the first.
Mhm.
But I do believe honestly, I believe what I tell you. But I used to tell Jim Kreider all the time, we don't got to win them all. We just got to win tonight. I'll put it up on Twitter when we start rolling. We're going to pound the rock. We're going to go at this practice, and we're going to go at that team the next night. And we're just going to keep pounding at it. And we're not going to change who we are. We'll adjust what we do, but we're going to be fluid. We're going to have guys that know their roles. They're going to feel free to shoot. They're going to play loose. We're going to defend hard. We sure as heck aren't going to take a lot of charges, because I've gone to walls, not charges, and I like it. I'm happy that way. I'm not saying we're getting out of the way, but we're going to wall. We're not going to just stand there.
Nice.
And I think it helps us foul less too.
Yeah. That's
So, we're going to be who we are. And I think when our kids buy into that and our kids feel loose and they're playing with enthusiasm, we've been successful at that.
That's great. Hey, Andy, what do you got left here, buddy? We got about 5 minutes.
So I guess, again, my whole premise why I wanted to lead off was the decision to keep everything in-house. And Dell kind of talked about it here with his last couple questions. Fortunately for you, unfortunately for everybody else, with each passing day with the news cycle, your decision to keep everything internally looks smarter and smarter, whereas, maybe some of these outside things don't look that great with every day.
Yeah.
And again, as somebody who wears different hats with the administrator role and the coach role, I mean, what does your gut tell you on July 7th with what we're looking at? Just for me speaking for myself, I think we'll be able to have some semblance of a season. I won't say it'll start on time like this mid-November to early December-ish, but I'm just kind of curious with what, your gut might be telling you right now.
My gut, without any information from anywhere else, I feel more confidence about league schedules than I do about any games that are kind of outside our league or our district. I think that's one of the issues that we're seeing with, the Centennial Conference today at Division III level. Just kind of, they didn't say canceled, they say postpone their fall season.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some talk of maybe moving some of their fall sports to spring sports if things are better or if things have changed. But there you have schools, even though most of them are within the state, still pretty different regions that are experiencing different levels of COVID positive tests. And I'm trying to be hopeful and optimistic about our season, at least from a league level, because we're confined to one county. So we're having 2 counties. Right. My apologies to my friends.
Don't forget Lebanon.
My apologies to our friends to the north.
Peter Crest, we'll have that on the bulletin board, I'm telling you. And Will Lebanon. Oh, my gosh. No, you're all right, Coach.
Tom Smith will put it right next to run, dribble, drive. That's okay. But my apologies to our friends to the north, but it's a pretty confined 2-county region with similar experiences right now. I feel better about that than I do about, we're going to go to this part of the state. We're going to go to that part of the state. And I think if leagues make that decision together, we might be, there might be some optimism there. Because the reality is I can make a good decision and Hempfield can make a good decision. All these schools and these kids and these districts and then these families can make good decisions. If we're going other places where they're not, it comes back here.
Yeah. Hey, we're running out of time. I thank you for everything, the Twitter stuff. I'm hoping, regardless of how this thing plays out next year, that Andy and I can still get into a gym once in a while and cover. Yeah. We plan on doing some live streaming. It might be the way to go this year. I mean, there's some opportunities to share some money, and I'll talk to the coaches about that down the road. But I appreciate everything you're doing. I love watching you guys play. It's a great facility. Your administration's been really, really, really good with us. We've done the last 2 LL finals there, and your tech people been good. Everything's been good, and we will stay in touch, and we'll follow you on Twitter like everybody else does.
Hey, we appreciate you guys so much. I mean, you guys are the envy of every other league in this state. That's a reality. Every other league in the state wishes that they had the type of coverage that we have. So when you guys say, hey, can we come cover your game? Absolutely. Because, you know, no disrespect to LMP, but they have 1 to 2 people covering games now.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I want to have
Yeah.
it highlighted? Why wouldn't I want our facility, our school to be highlighted? And you guys do that better than anybody else.
Thank you, sir. Hey, Andy.
Appreciate it.
Take care out there, brother. You know,
Yeah.
do free testing on the way back. You know, hit the Rite Aid on the way back. Thanks.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Hey, I got my antibody test before I came, and I did not get it yet, so I'm living on edge. So
make a 6-foot circle around your chair. There,
I will.
right, brother.
I will.
All right. Hey,
Yet
good night,
is the word of
everybody.
the summer.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks, Coach.
Be good.